Hi, my name's Nancy. My YouTube name is Nancy is Mobile, but currently I am not mobile. I was planning to make videos of walking parks and national parks nature trails I like to walk on because I had, in the previous couple of years, I decided I didn't want to be fat and out of shape anymore. So I was doing it slowly. Well, this year I turned 55 and I was very proud of myself because previously I couldn't even make it through Home Depot. We'd go shopping and I was looking for the patio furniture displays so I can go sit down. And he would have to finish shopping without me because I just couldn't make it. You know, a lot of weight on your feet. I weighed about 299.99, and the reason I say that is because I had vowed to myself that I would never be over 300 pounds. So when I weighed myself and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be 300 pounds soon, I did something about it. And we did something about it. And he lost a lot of weight too, and we were feeling good. So, 55th birthday. We went over to Lake Okeechobee, one of the places we walk occasionally. If you've ever been there, you know that you have to go over this big embankment to actually see the lake. But on the top of the embankment, there's a road. I don't know if I've ever seen cars on that in actual Okeechobee. Now, Lake Okeechobee is quite big, so it goes all the way from Okeechobee all the way to West Palm Beach, Southern Boulevard. And there's some places in between, like Port Mayaca, which is another place I used to like to go. Even at night, it's like eerie with all those lights, and anyways, I digress, if that's the proper word. Anyways, getting to the point. My birthday, I'm walking up and down the embankment without effort. Like, I wasn't getting winded. I didn't want to find a place to sit down. I was really pleased with myself. So, not long after, in February, first week in February, I was in the kitchen doing dishes. And another first happened for me. The floor was wet. Don't have a rug down. I'm going to change that. I might just, carpet the whole place if I stay here. I was doing dishes and I turned to the right to take some trash off the counter. There were some wrappers from dinner, and I was going to throw them away and wipe the counters, do what you do after you clean up. And I started to slide. Left foot forward, right foot back, and I tried to grab the sink, and my hands were wet, and I went down and did if you can imagine those James Brown splits in his videos, where he goes down and then comes back up. I did not come back up. I screamed. So my husband came out to rescue me and help me get back up. So a bruise started. Oh, I had a horrible bruise. I wish I knew how to do this video thing. I would show you slides because I took pictures. Because biggest bruise I ever had in my life. So I recovered from the slip and fall. It took me about 3 weeks. I was out of work and I went back to work. But I was still using all my weight on my right leg instead of my left because my left was injured. It took a while for it. Actually, it was kind of forced to get stronger recently. It was still kind of weak. So when my leg swelled up in July, I kind of figured it was associated with the slip and fall because I was putting all my weight on it. Oh, and I was still losing weight. Partly I was losing my appetite. I wasn't really eating very much. Things I used to love to eat, I didn't want to eat them anymore. I didn't know what was happening to me. They said, oh, it's because you're getting older and you don't eat as much. I was like, okay, maybe that's it. So, where was I? So one day in July, I woke up and I guess I was sleeping on my arm. I had it up over my head under my pillow. My husband told me that. and it felt like I sprained it, and it hurt, but it wasn't like excruciatingly hurt. It was just like, I slept on it. I'm sorry, I had to get some water. So I didn't think much of it, I thought, yeah, it'll go away. So a couple of days after that, I woke up, and my right leg, was swelled up, and it looked like I was wearing a boot, like a flesh boot. It was huge. I was like, what the hell? I couldn't even get any, shoe on. And I called the doctor, and went in, saw her. Brand new doctor, because my doctors keep retiring. And I've gone through a few different doctors in the same office. And honestly, I hadn't been to the doctor in a while because, COVID happened and we were staying home. And the doctor's office was the last place I want to be. But I was kind of forced to go there because of my foot. So I go in. I know I'm going back and forth. I'm no professional here. So she tells me, the blood work comes back and says you're diabetic. And I've been borderline diabetic for years, but I guess I was like, well, I knew this day would come. One day I would go over the borderline and end up being diabetic and on medication and not eating cake. Yeah, I like birthday cake, but only one piece. No, sometimes two. Cake is in the past for me now. Anywho, it's hard to tell my story. This is my first time on camera. So they tell me I'm diabetic, and your leg's swelled up because you're diabetic, and you need to wear a compression sock, which I'm wearing right now because my leg's swelled up for a different reason. I'll get to that. Well, I'll tell you now. Inactivity. Because I can't go around walking anymore, but I'll tell you why. I'll describe it. I think I burped. Very sorry. I don't know how to edit, so hopefully I don't fart. Anyways, you think I'm in a good mood. I'm dealing with things my own way. She tells me, wear a compression sock, stay home from work for a while, and then I mentioned my arm. My arm is weak. I don't know what's going on with it. First it would just kind of hurt a little bit, and did I miss something? I think after I called in sick 2 days from work because of my boot leg that looked like a boot, the swelling went down, and I went ahead and went to work. Yeah, I missed something. I'm sorry. I'm skipping ahead of when I went to the doctor. I went to her twice. Yeah. Anyways, I went back to work. I couldn't get up the stairs. I had to reach out with my arm that hurt and grab the staircase to keep myself from falling backwards because my leg was swelling up and I'm wearing my shoe, and it was very hard to get my shoe off later. So I called in sick to work again, which I don't like to do because I really like going to work. I like my job. I have great bosses, My coworkers are awesome, So they had to fill out some paperwork, because I had no sick days left because of the slip and fall. I pretty much used up everything I had. So some paperwork had to be filled out by the doctor's office, and I'll get to that too. Okay, back at the doctor's office. She tells me she's going to send me to a neurologist for my arm because if I can imitate what was happening with this arm, because it's my left arm, it was getting to where I couldn't raise it over my head anymore. It's like I had to put my hand on my head just to wash my hair. I learned how to wash my hair with one hand because I couldn't get my arm up. And it was like this. I'd go to put my arm up and it was and then it got to where I couldn't even, do it this way. See my spots? That's from something. I'll tell you what that is. So I was having a hard time. And she told me to wear a compression sock on my foot and go to a neurologist. So I went to the neurologist, went in to see him the first time. I didn't go right away because I thought, oh, it's just a sprain, it's going to get better. And I was trying to keep working it out, try to keep my muscles from jamming up, and I probably did a lot of damage doing that. Anywho, went to the neurologist first time, introduction, told him my situation, but at the time I could still move it some, because he did like a test where he wanted me to grip and how high I can raise my arm, and it was about halfway at that time. I could, get it up somewhat. But by the time I went to my second appointment where he was going to do a nerve test, that arm was useless. It was flopping around like it had no muscles at all. Just flopping around. By then I had ordered a sling on Amazon. And Amazon, we had Amazon Prime. I got it in a couple of days. And by the time I went to my second appointment, I had my arm in a sling. So he took the sling off of me. I'm like holding my arm with my good arm, trying to keep it from flopping over, because he wanted me to turn on the table so he can do the electrodes or whatever they do for the nerve test in the back of my arm. So about the time I finally got myself sit up, and he looked at me, and he's wearing a mask, of course, and he goes, "Your arm's broken." He opens the examination room door. He goes out and talks to his nurse and says, "Get on the phone and get her in the radiology across the road." There was a radiology big place across the road from there. I had been there previously because my doctor had sent me in to see if I had a blood clot in that leg. But she never did get me an x-ray done. My leg that swelled up, they checked for a blood clot in it. I probably skipped that part, but now you know. So I knew the place. So I went over there right after I left the neurologist's office. And you know what? I really need to remember to thank him for this. So I go over there. They do x-rays, and I'm going to tell you something about radiology. If it's good news, they're going to tell you right away, oh, you don't have a blood clot, because when they did the thing on my leg, oh, you don't have a blood clot. But when it's bad news, they won't tell you. They go, oh, you have to get your results from your doctor. So they made me a disc. Here's a disc in case you need to bring this to someone else. And, oops, I almost tore the whole table down. Sorry. Here we go. So I'm in the car. My husband wanted to go to Publix to pick up some things. And, I didn't want to go in. I felt like hell. So I'm sitting in the car. And I get a phone call from my neurologist. And he says, well, your arm is broken. I was like, oh no. I was thinking, how did I break it? And he goes, but it gets worse. You have a tumor. I have a tumor in my arm. Oh my God, So he says, go to the hospital right away. Go check in. And, because of the COVID scare, I was a little worried to go to the hospital. And I probably would have went to the wrong hospital, because I really think I chose the right one in the end, if I had gone that day. So I thought, well, let me see if I can get it an appointment with an orthopedic surgeon. And I never finished the thing about the paperwork to fill out for my job. I had such a hard time getting the doctor's office, to get a message to my doctor, to get this paperwork filled out correctly so I can get paid through my job. Like, they pay you part of your pay when you're out sick. Been there a long time. And she didn't get the paperwork done right, and I wasn't getting my paycheck. And I called that office 4 or 5 times, and I said, this is important. I need to speak with her. The paperwork's not done right. And when she finally called me, she had only gotten one of my messages over a course of a few, 4 or 5 days. One. So very hard to get a hold of. So when the neurologist's office said, we're in your orthopedic surgeon's office said, even though we're in your network, you have to get a referral from your family practice doctor before, we can see you. And I'm thinking, do you know how many times, I'm thinking this, you know how many times I called that office just to get some paperwork corrected? and they never gave her the message, it would be like I would never get that referral. So I figured it would be like 2 weeks before they could do anything about my arm. So I made the decision, yes, I'm going to the hospital. But I didn't go that night because it was the anniversary of my mother's death, and didn't want to do it. Let me backtrack to something previous before my arm and leg. I had been having menopausal problems where I was bleeding excessively even though my period had stopped 6 months ago. And it was excessive. It was bad. And I wanted it to stop. So I went and saw a specialist. In the meantime, while this leg thing was happening, I actually had to cancel my first appointment there because my leg had swollen up. So I can make the next appointment, and I'm walking with a cane. My arm's hurting. I still didn't know what was wrong with it. It was before I went to the neurologist who discovered my arm was broken. So I went and saw a specialist, got some tests done, got a mammogram. Mammogram came out good. Good. I thought, yay. And then he had the results finally. It took a few weeks. So within those few weeks, that's when my arm deteriorated and it got worse. So I checked into Jupiter Medical Center. And great hospital. They were on top of everything. I mean, I have no regrets going there. I think if I had gone somewhere else, I wouldn't be healing at all. I don't know. I may be wrong, but they took such good care of me there. So if you live in my area and you're deciding which hospital to go to, Jupiter Medical Center. You got to go there. My friend told me to go there because she had gone there. She didn't have a heart attack, but something happened and she had to get heart surgery. And she went there and they took such good care of her. She just raved about it. So she's told me that if I didn't go to that hospital, she was going to show up at my house and she was going to drag me there. Because that's how adamant she was that I was to go there. So I checked into the hospital. In the meantime, the gynecologist had called me because I had declined to come in because I was in so much pain. So he called me personally, asked me permission to give my test results over the phone. I said yes. Come to find out, I have cervical cancer. So when I got into the hospital and checked in, I told them my arm was broken. And also, because I had had a fractured leg in my early 30s, years ago, I felt like I was walking on a broken leg, that swollen leg. And so when I came into the hospital, I said, I went there at 6 o'clock in the morning. There was only one person ahead of me because I was worried I was going to be sitting in the emergency room for hours. I went right in. So I checked in and I said, I have a broken arm and there's a tumor. I have a disc here. This is not the disc, obviously. And then I said, and also, I feel like I've been walking on a broken leg, so I want that checked out too. And they said, okay, good. We'll do that. So they checked me in. I'm in the emergency room like all day. Their beds are not comfortable. I think that's the same for every emergency room. But anyways, I was in there all day. And first they came and they took x-rays in the emergency room of my arm and my leg and came back and gave me the results later and said, yep, broken arm, tumor, and your leg is fractured. I knew it. I knew my leg, it was something wrong. I don't know why my family doctor didn't send me in for x-rays on both, instead of saying, get a blood clot test and this and that and the other and go to a neurologist. Why didn't she just say, we're going to do x-rays first? That would have just solved a lot of time. I don't know why she didn't do it. So, my leg's broken also. And there's two tumors in my leg. One where the break is, which is a non-weight bearing bone, and one above my knee on a major bone, and I'm supposed to notify the doctor immediately if it ever starts hurting, because they have, well, I'll get to that, what they're going to do with me. So I went in, got admitted to the hospital before I could even settle in the room, because they put me on the other bed. And those beds, they just, you don't have to get up to go anywhere. They just wheel you out. So I had to put a mask on. We wheeled through the hall. They took me to get a CAT scan. And at this point, I wasn't feeling too bad. They just x-rayed. Oh, they x-rayed my other leg and arm, too, and those are okay, luckily. So they sent me into a CAT scan. I'd never had one before. It was the weirdest experience. If you ever had one, they had put an IV. Remember I told you about this spot I'm going to tell you about? I had 2 different IVs put on because one of them kind of started getting red, and they had to change it. And so they put this, I don't know, with this activator or something in me, and I suddenly just felt weird all over. Totally weird all over. So they put me through this CAT scan. Breathe in, hold your breath, pull you out, breathe normally. And then they put me back in, and they just CAT scanned my whole body. And the result came back. I have lots of tumors. But luckily, they're not real big, all of them. But they found a very significant one on my kidney. And they were asking me, have you ever had pain, in your back and stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, it's excruciating. And they go, well, you have a tumor, like, sitting right on your kidney, and it's stopping it from draining. And I'm like, well, I'm peeing just fine. He says, well, you have another kidney. So, anywho, I hate that word, anywho. I don't hope I don't use that too much. Just trying to think of where I am in the story. They did a CAT scan. Okay, I've already covered that. So they weren't sure when they were going to do the first surgery. They already knew that they were going to have to go in my arm, take out the tumor, and my bone was destroyed, like, from the tumor. It just, because it was there, it just cracked the bone. And they were going to do surgery on that. So that was the first surgery, but they didn't do it for like a day and a half. And the staff didn't know when the surgery was going to be, so they wouldn't feed me. But when they hooked me up to that IV bottle, the fluids they put in you, I was actually really grateful, because it flushed that CAT scan fluid out of me, and I felt better after it got flushed out. So for the first day and a half, I didn't eat. And that finally they scheduled when the surgery was going to be, and they told me I could eat that day. So I ate, but I couldn't eat after midnight. Went first thing in the morning, got the surgery, and I'd never been to surgery. I didn't know what to expect. So I'm talking to the anesthesiologist. I'm going to be the one putting you under for the surgery. And I'm talking to him, and next thing you know, I'm waking up in recovery. I didn't even remember when I went out. So I'm waking up in recovery, and I'm going to show you. I have a metal rod in my arm. See? They say it's a very clean. I can touch it now. It's been several days since it was done. Anyways, I have a sling on this arm also. You can probably see it right here. So, surgery went well. They said it looked great. They got it in there good. The incision, is healed, like, straight. Everything was great. So then, the next day, a urologist comes in to talk to me in my room and says, well, we need to put you in and get a splint put in to save your kidney, before you get treatment for that. So I'm like, can you give me a day? Because I still felt weird. And he says, no, we can't. We can't risk it. We're going to have to go under again. So when I went into that one, my IV was looking a little red, like it was getting irritated. And they were discussing, should we put her under first and then change the IV, or should we change the IV right now? And I looked over to the guy and I said, change it after you put me under, because I don't want to remember. The first time I got that IV put in, it was awful. So they changed my IV. They put, breathe in, I'm breathing. Next thing you know, I'm waking up. I don't know where I woke up. It was different in the recovery from the arm. It was like a part of the hospital that people don't go to, like maybe it was a lab or something, and I'm sitting in there, and there's two men in there, one's on a computer, and the other one's on the other side of me, and I woke up, and he goes, "She's awake," and he pulled this thing out of my mouth, and I had like this bump. It's still healing. It was huge. So, oh, hey, you're awake. So I'm sitting there, and I guess I'm looking around at everything, and I start to close my eyes, and they go, "Oh, she's falling back asleep." And I'm like, who's he talking to? You know, who's he telling this to? So they wheel me out of there, put me back in my room, and it took longer for me to get over that anesthesia because I had went under twice in a few days. And thing you don't know is that it does do something to you. Like, I kept losing my chain of thought talking to people. Like, if they'd interrupt me, you know how you're in a conversation and someone interjects, "Oh yeah, I did that too," and I'm like, please don't interrupt me, I'm gonna forget everything I was talking about. But it cleared up. It did clear up. So I don't know how many days I was in the hospital. Every day seemed to go into the next. And I will tell you, they took excellent care of me. I only had a couple of times where I had a nurse's aide give me an attitude because at first I couldn't get out of bed at all. They had me on this. It was a catheter, but it's not like the one they stick inside of you. Like when I first got the surgery for my arm. But when I had the urology one, they put a real catheter in me. Anyways, too much information, but that's what I'm here for, to give you information about my life, or my experience, rather. So, God, I'm losing details here now. I'm getting back and forth in the story. The nurses' staff were wonderful. You telling me feel dirty? They get their buckets out and their, washcloths, and they wipe you down. And it's not like having a real bath, but I'm going to tell you, when you've been sitting around and you feel icky, you feel good afterwards. Now, my problem is I have long hair, so it was a hard time. I only got my hair, I washed my hair. I didn't wash my hair before I went to the hospital, and I really regret that, because I only wash it every other day. And so it was days before I got my hair washed, and a nurse, thankfully, washed my hair, and it was like, oh my God. I got used to people taking care of me, because before I was like, ooh, modesty, ooh, don't see me naked, and now pretty much everybody'd seen my butt, because they had to wipe it for me for a while. You gotta do what you gotta do in your hospital. So I'm gonna end this video right here, to where after I got my surgery, my 2 surgeries, or a surgery and a procedure, and I'm going to make another video later. I hope you continue to watch me. I mean, I just feel like I need to get this out. I thought, ooh, I'm going to write a book about it, but I'll never write a book about it. I always say I'm going to read a book, and then I never get around to doing that. But I'm going to, because I've got a lot of time on my hands right now. I didn't even get into what they're going to do with me now after they did the surgery. Well, they're going to do radiation. I'll tell you that. They plan to do radiation here, and they're going to do radiation on the 2 spots I have on my right leg, because they have to eliminate those first. And at that point in the story, they didn't know if the cancer was the same as the cervical, but it is. The cancer had spread. And they told me my chances are good because most of the little tumors they found are very small. They're called nodules or something. So I will continue this another day. Thank you for listening. If you're still watching, I really appreciate it. I'm not good at editing or doing anything with videos. I guess I'm old school. I really don't even know how to use a computer properly. Thank God they came out with smartphones, because I would be on my computer, ding, 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 2-finger typing. Anyways, I was pretty fast at 2-finger typing, though. I used to go into chat. Ding, 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 ding. Thank you for listening. I don't even know where to look on the camera. Like, you know, what do I look at when I'm talking? I have no clue. Maybe I'll figure it out later. I'm gonna go. I'll make another video another day. I'm getting kind of tired. Oh, last night was the first night I slept more than 1 hour. I couldn't believe it. I've started physical therapy on this arm. Finally, I know that the operation was a success, and I'm going to get my movement back. I'm going to get my arm back. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm apprehensive, and I'm also very much motivated to start the next treatments because I want to live. That was the whole point of me getting in shape and being able to walk through Home Depot without sitting down. And anyways, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.